Shalom and welcome back to Israel with Aline. We are in the middle of a war with Iran, and the sirens are going off incessantly all over Israel and also in other countries in the Middle East. Today we came to Jerusalem and we are next to the closed Jaffa Gate because rather than just telling you what's happening, we came today to show you so you can see with your own eyes the reality of the biblical city of Jerusalem in these days of conflict and war. So let's walk and see the reality. So if you're ready, let's get started. We are seeing a very rare scene, the Jaffa Gate, the Joppa Gate, completely closed and locked. This is not normal. Normally, this gate is always open, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it is the main entrance to the old city of Jerusalem. However, when the war with Iran began on February 28, 2026, the police and the government of Israel took a drastic measure. They closed the entire old city of Jerusalem. All 8 gates were closed. Of the 8 gates, actually, one of them has been closed for many centuries. It's the Golden Gate, also known as the Messiah's Gate, and its reopening is linked to biblical prophecies. But the other 7 gates, including the Joppa Gate, are always open. But what the Israeli government did was close all these gates and severely limit access to the historical and biblical part only to those who live inside the old city. The old city, everyone, is 1 square kilometer, and it's not an open-air museum, but rather an integral and living part of Jerusalem. Inside the walls, approximately 30 to 40,000 people live. And only those whose documents list them as residents of the old city, only they had access to enter and leave during the first days of the war. In fact, if you come here with me, you can see all of this here. This was put here by the police around the walls, and so access was limited. People had to come here like a checkpoint to identify themselves. And if the person could prove that they lived or at least worked in the old city, they were allowed access. But people like me, I'm a resident of Jerusalem, but I live outside the walls. I live in the south of Jerusalem, in the new part of the city. I didn't have access to the old city. That was in the first days of the conflict. However, as the days went by, the situation started to stabilize. Not that the war was over, we'll talk about that later. But the situation stabilized, especially here in Jerusalem, in part of the southern region. And because of that, access to the old city of Jerusalem was once again allowed, but with restrictions. And because of that, I want to invite you now to walk with me. Because although the Jaffa Gate itself is still not open, the side entrance, which is the entrance normally used by cars, is open for both cars and pedestrians. And that's where we're going to enter. And you can see that we're not the only ones. We can see here that there are more people entering Jerusalem now. And I want to show you everything we're doing today, our walks, our routes, because I want you to notice even the smallest details. I want to show the complete reality of Jerusalem during these days because the reality is very, very different from what is shown in some parts of the media. It's a very strange feeling to be walking in Jerusalem because I spend most of my days here inside the old city and everything is really completely different. Even the weather today, suddenly there are gusts of wind. It started to get windy earlier. It started to rain and now the sun is coming out. I mean, even the weather is strange, but also when you look around, most of the shops are closed, the barricades. Look here, everyone, the barricades that are spread out at several strategic points. I mean, this isn't the Jerusalem we're used to, but one thing that has existed in Jerusalem for quite some time is a division between quarters. There's the Armenian quarter of the old city, which starts right here on this side. There's the Christian quarter, the Muslim quarter, and the Jewish quarter. We're going to show you all a bit of each of these sides to show the reality during the war for Jews, Christians, and Muslims. And our first stop, the first place we're going to enter, is this street right here that goes down, and this is the famous Arab market of the old city of Jerusalem, the Shuk. And on a normal day, again, this place is busy, colorful, with fabrics, incense, scents, and food. And suddenly we walk here and it feels like we're walking in a kind of ghost town. So let's see how the market is now, if there's anything open maybe. We can see that all the shops are closed, but we have to remember that this, which is the famous Arab market in the old city of Jerusalem, is mainly a tourist market. And at this moment, tourism is practically at a standstill in Israel. There are almost no flights coming in or going out. And that's why it also makes sense that the tourist market is closed. But that doesn't mean the Muslim quarter is closed. This market isn't really part of the Muslim quarter. And we're going to the Muslim quarter to see how the local Arabs are really living during these days. But something I want you to notice is that even though the shops are closed and there's a bit of a ghost town feeling, pay attention to the people. No one here looks panicked, desperate, or afraid. Many times the media tries to portray an image of total chaos, sirens and missiles, and everything happening in a desperate way, but that's not the case. The Israeli population, including Jews, Christians, and Muslims, are very resilient people. We know how to deal even with the greatest difficulties. So yes, we are going through tough times. Yes, there is a real threat from Iran, but that doesn't mean we should just panic and be terrified. Because we have to remember that the main goal of the Islamic Republic of Iran, not the people of Iran, but the Islamic Republic, the Ayatollahs with all their puppets, which are Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, all these terrorist groups, and the head of the terrorists, which is the Islamic Republic of Iran. Their goal is to terrorize us. They want to break our spirit. They want to break our faith. They want to take away our humanity, and they will never succeed in that. The fact that we are here, living even with all the restrictions, this is part of our resistance. Terrorism will never win. And that's why, yes, seeing people here walking peacefully, even with things closed, is something important. In the end, we saw that yes, there are some businesses open here in the Arab market, but businesses that sell essential things like food, cleaning products, and now we've left the Arab market. And as we cross into this area, we are entering the Jewish quarter.
Behind me are 400 truckloads of Temple Mount soil that were illegally dumped in 1999 like trash. But two archaeologists refused to let it disappear. They rescued the soil and created the Temple Mount Sifting Project. Today, over 500,000 artifacts have been recovered. Pottery from Solomon's temple, coins from Jesus' time, pieces of history that were meant to be lost forever. Now you can be part of this rescue mission, get authentic Temple Mount soil delivered to your door, and help keep biblical archaeology alive. Scan the QR code or use the link below.
I want you to see what's here. We can see a small archaeological excavation that revealed a gigantic wall. We can see its width, and the original height of this wall reached about halfway up those two windows. And this wall is 2,700 years old. And it reminds us that the war here in Jerusalem didn't start 2 weeks ago, but that Jerusalem has lived through more than 20 wars throughout its history. And one specific war is the war involving this wall. This wall, its construction is mentioned in the Bible, in the book of Isaiah. And the one who built this wall was King Hezekiah, and he built it to protect Jerusalem from the Assyrian invasion. I mean, the Assyrian army was coming from the north. They managed to destroy the entire kingdom of Israel and send 10 of the 12 tribes into exile. And most of these tribes, even today, have not returned. And then the Assyrians continued heading down towards Judah, towards Jerusalem. And the last free Jewish stronghold was precisely Jerusalem, the capital. And King Hezekiah prepares everything for this war. The water systems, new walls, he does everything. But in the end, who wins this battle against the Assyrians here in Jerusalem? It wasn't Hezekiah, it wasn't any soldier. The one who won this battle was God. God, during the night outside the walls, right here outside the walls, the angel of death passes by and kills 185,000 enemy soldiers. And so the victory is given to Israel. And that's why this wall reminds us that since ancient times, Jerusalem has been threatened by enemy peoples. But the wall also reminds us that the one who gave and continues to give victory to Jerusalem and Israel is God. The reality during these days is really very different. We could even say it's a bit surreal, because while I was showing you the biblical archaeology, Hezekiah's wall, we were also getting alerts on our phones about sirens going off in other parts of Israel at that moment. I have here with me the app called Tseva Adam, which is the name of the siren here in Israel. So we can see 10 minutes ago, the siren went off here on the confrontation line, which is the far north of Israel. It also went off in Samaria, and it went off in the Jordan Valley. So we can see here in the Shephelah, which is the coastal plain, how many sirens went off in how many places just in the last half hour. I mean, there are constantly sirens going off all over Israel. Jerusalem, less than in other places, but they still happen. Almost every day during the conflict, we have sirens, and it can be during the day, at night, or in the middle of the night. And I want to explain to you how we deal with this, what our reality is like in practice. So when Iran, for example, launches a ballistic missile towards Israel, Israel detects the missile coming towards Israel and then sends alerts to cell phones saying, the missile has been launched, maybe in the next few minutes a siren will go off. This happened here in Jerusalem today at 5:30 in the morning. The cell phones with a very loud alert, tum, 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 saying the siren might go off. And as the missile gets closer, Israel is able to better pinpoint the location where the missile is headed. And that's why the siren actually goes off in a much smaller area. For example, here in Jerusalem, Jerusalem is divided into several areas, into several neighborhoods. So even if there's a missile coming toward Jerusalem, the siren won't necessarily go off in the whole city. Instead, they pinpoint, look, in this or that neighborhood, it might fall. And then only in that specific area does the Tseva Adam, the siren, actually start to sound. And when the siren starts to sound here in Jerusalem, we have 90 seconds to get to a shelter, to a safe place. And most places in Israel have safe places. For example, in my building, we have a bunker in our basement. What I'm doing now is showing some images of my bunker here on the screen. I've already shown it to you a few times here on the channel. And more modern buildings, which were built from the year 2000 onwards, have a bunker, an air raid shelter for each apartment. This is a cost of billions and billions of dollars for Israel's economy, but it's a way for the government to make the population safer. My building is older, so there's a bunker in the basement. So most places in Israel, from shopping centers to private buildings and public buildings, there's always some safe place to take shelter. So what usually happens, we get this warning letting us know that in maybe a few minutes the siren will go off. If the siren really goes off, we have 90 seconds to get into the shelter and lock it from the inside. And then Israel's different anti-missile systems kick in, including Kipput Barzel, the Iron Dome. And these systems intercept the missiles while they're still in the air, and that's why the missiles don't fall in Israel. Yes, there are some missiles that manage to reach Israeli territory and fall, but they are the exception because the systems are really efficient. We can look here, for example, at Jerusalem. Jerusalem, if we count from the beginning of the war that started, not this war, but the war that began on October 7th, 2023, I mean, in about 2.5 years, there have been hundreds of sirens in Jerusalem and thousands of sirens all over Israel. But if we look at Jerusalem, out of the hundreds and hundreds of sirens we've had, only one missile actually fell in the city. And thank God it didn't really fall. In the city, in the built-up area, on houses, on residences. Instead, it fell on a road that led to a neighborhood. And yes, it created a crater, I mean some damage. Significant material damage, but there were no deaths. That's why we can really see that the protection for Israel is very efficient. But even when these missiles are intercepted in the air, pieces of metal can still fall. And that's why, even with the sirens going off, even though we know it was probably intercepted, that there's more than a 99% chance it was intercepted, still we go to safe places to protect ourselves precisely because there can be what we call in Hebrew resisim, which are shrapnel. And really the population here in Israel strictly follows the government's instructions and we go to protected places. However, we have to take into consideration that we are now in the old city of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, the ancient city, was built around 4,000 years ago. Since then, it has been destroyed and rebuilt many times, but practically no building here was constructed in the last few decades. And that's why here in the old city, we practically don't have any air raid shelters or bunkers. And that was also one of the reasons why the Israeli government wanted to avoid large gatherings in here, because there aren't places as safe in the old city as there are in the new city. Because we have to remember that the Islamic Republic of Iran, as well as the terrorist groups that constantly try to attack Israel, they don't respect anything or anyone. They indiscriminately launch missiles against civilian populations, against Jews, against Christians, against Muslims. And we've seen tragedies over these years of war, also involving non-Jewish populations. And we've also seen that Iran has already launched missiles toward the old city of Jerusalem against holy sites. And without a doubt, if it weren't for Israel's anti-missile systems, holy places, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim sites would have been hit. We can see that here in the Christian quarter, most of the shops are closed. Also because, again, much of the commerce here is aimed at tourists and pilgrims. And now, with practically no visitors from outside the country, it makes much less sense to open businesses. There are also restrictions on which businesses can open and which cannot. And we also have to remember that today is Sunday, and on Sundays, just like any other Sunday, most of the shops in the Christian quarter are closed. So we can see here that yes, there is something maybe a little similar to the Jewish quarter, which is that there are few businesses operating. But what we can also see is that there is an air of, maybe I can't say tranquility, but there is a lack of panic here, unlike what many people say. And it deeply bothers me to see fake news on the internet. And I have to say that the amount of fake news I've seen about Israel in these last 2 weeks is frightening. Videos made with artificial intelligence showing missiles falling in Israel, destruction and chaos. And videos circulating on the internet saying that Tel Aviv is in ruins and that Tel Aviv has been destroyed. So everyone, let's be very careful with the sources we check on the internet. Many channels, sometimes big and well-known ones, we can't mention names here, but many big and well-known channels are often prone to manipulating the truth. And you are seeing the reality. Yes, Israel is at war. Yes, the people of Israel are tense because of the moment we are living through. But there is no massive destruction. There is no panic. There is no abandonment. Israelis are not leaving. Quite the opposite. If you see on TV talk about emergency flights, rescue flights from Israel, I don't know if you've seen it. All the rescue flights are flights to rescue Israelis who are stuck outside of Israel and bring them back. I mean, there are no rescues of people fleeing from Israel, fleeing from the war, quite the opposite. What we mostly see are the rescue flights bringing Israelis who were outside back into Israel. Yes, with the start of the war, the tourists who were here, most of them left the country, some by plane, others left through the land borders with Egypt or with Jordan. So yes, things are happening, but that destruction, those AI videos we see on the internet, it's very important for us to understand that they are fake and that they are part of a media war that the Islamic Republic of Iran, along with its allies, are waging. And in the media war, guys, Iran is much more efficient than in physical warfare. Let's walk through the Christian quarter to see more of the reality. We are now in the Muslim quarter, and you can see how this quarter is much busier than the other parts of the city that we've seen so far. There's more of a sense of normalcy here. Even in these days of war, in these days precisely, it is Ramadan, which is the holy month for Muslims. During the day they fast, and every night they have big dinners, big family meals. And that's why we can see that a lot of people are coming here to the local shops to buy sweets, candies, and little gifts for the children. And we can really see that even with the war, a lot of the businesses here are running thanks to Ramadan. We exited the old city walls through the Damascus Gate. And I want to take this moment to talk to you about the war with Iran and most importantly about the future of this war. And I can't tell you how long this conflict will last. Whether it's a matter of a few days, a few weeks, a month, I can't tell you that. But what we do know without a doubt is who will come out victorious. And that is already written in the Bible. In several prophecies, including in the book of Amos, I will bring my exiled people back to Israel. They will rebuild the ruined cities and live in them. They will plant vineyards and drink their wine. They will cultivate orchards and eat their fruit. I will plant Israel in their own land so that never again will they be uprooted from the land I have given them, says the Lord, your God. Amos, like other prophets, foretold the return of the people of Israel to their land. The people were expelled in different waves, mainly by the Romans in the year 70 AD, and after almost 2,000 years, the people finally managed to return. What seemed impossible was fulfilled in 1948 with the declaration of Israel's independence. And as Amos also said, Israel will never again be uprooted from its land. And we see that many try terrorist groups, the Islamic Republic of Iran itself, but the Bible says Israel will never be uprooted again. Israel is here to stay. So the goal of all these terrorist groups, which is to destroy Israel, they will not achieve it. And this shows that victory, yes, will be Israel's. On the other hand, it's also hard for us to talk about victory in a war because war causes suffering for everyone. The entire Middle East is currently suffering from this conflict. So, victory will come when the Islamic Republic of Iran falls. And the people of Iran once again can be free. For those who don't know, 47 years ago, the Ayatollahs took power in Iran and led their people into a period of oppression, repression, and darkness. And now, for the first time in 47 years, their freedom is near. Not only because of Israeli and American interventions, but we have seen mass protests from the Iranian people themselves, especially in January of this year. Taking to the streets, millions of Iranians went out to demand the end of this terrible government, this terrorist government, which also terrorizes the Persian population, the innocent Iranian people. Millions of people took to the streets to demand the end of the government. And this bloodthirsty government killed between 30 and 40,000 people from its own population to suppress these protests. And now finally, with everything that's happening, we see this satanic government slowly falling apart. And my prayer today is for the freedom of the Iranian people, that they may live freely as they once did. The Iranian people are wonderful people. They are friends of the people of Israel. Despite all the suffering that war causes, the enemy will never be able to destroy our faith, to destroy the biblical history of Jerusalem and all of Israel. And us being here standing today is part of this proof. Proof that the faith of this place will never disappear. I hope you enjoyed today, and I'll see you next time.